Top 5 magic cards that say you win the game. Number 5, Approach of the Second Sun. 6 and a white for a sorcery that gains you 7 life on the first resolution, puts itself 7 cards deep in your library. Then, if you manage to find it again, or a second copy, and you resolve it a second time, you win the game. Number 4, Coalition Victory. 3 generic plus Wooburg for a sorcery that says you win the game if you control a land of each basic land type and a creature of each color. Pretty sweet card and a much more achievable task nowadays than when it was printed back in Invasion. Since then we've gotten all the enemy color fetch lands, the Ravnica Shocklands, the Triomes that provide 3 basic land types in 1 land. There's also been increased 5 color support with efficient domain cards like Leyline Binding and Tribal Flames, as well as land type fixers like Prismatic Omen and Dryad of the Elysian Grove. Check out my top 5 5-color creatures list to meet the other half of Coalition Victory's criteria. Number 3, Maze's End. The only land in contention, it enters tapped, can produce colorless mana, and says you can pay 3, tap Maze's End, return it to your hand to search your library for a gate and put it on the battlefield. Then, if you control 10 different gates, you win. In Dragon's Maze, when Maze's End was originally printed, there were only 10 gates available, a guild gate for each guild in Ravnica, alongside cards like the Gatekeeper cycle that rewarded you for having gates. What I liked most about Maze's End was the route to victory being an assembly of specific puzzle pieces, fully encapsulated in one set. You get those 10 gates, you win. Since Dragon's Maze, there have been more gates printed beyond the original 10, plus there are now more powerful and efficient cards that care about gates, like Guild Summit, Gates Ablaze, Gatebreaker Ram, and Gate Colossus. Number 2, Battle of Wits. 3 blue for an enchantment that says at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 200 or more cards in your library, you win the game. This is the first win the game card I had ever heard of. Before I saw it in person, I thought it must be fake. 200 cards? You just win? But luckily, I was wrong. Part of a loosely related enchantment cycle from the Odyssey block, Battle of Wits was the most absurd of the 5, asking the player to cram nearly 4 times the normal number of cards into their deck, then figure out a way to find the blue enchantment needle in the Dragon Shield haystack. And finally at number 1, we have Laboratory Maniac.
This guy's not half bad looking for a maniac. Wait a minute, Patrick. I'm the maniac!
2 and a blue for a 2/2 that says if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. Lab Maniac is the number 1 win the game card because it doesn't just win, it replaces losing. Other candidates for this list require you to wait until your upkeep after meeting certain criteria or assembling a particular board state, but the Maniac just asks you to trust him. Since his entry into Magic during Innistrad, there have been other cards printed with similar effects. Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, has the identical ability, just on a Planeswalker body. Thassa's Oracle is probably the most practical of the 3, since it doesn't require you to actually draw with 0 cards to get the victory, allowing for more flexibility and risk mitigation. But risk mitigation is lame. Give me the Maniac. Honorable mention goes to Felidar Sovereign, a 4/6 with Vigilance and Lifelink for 4 white that says at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 40 or more life, you win the game. This was the first win the game card I had ever opened in a booster pack back in 2009, which at the time meant my Heroes Remembered deck finally had a win condition. Follow for more top 5s.